federal contract opportunities, there are opportunities that are set aside specifically for women-owned small businesses, and then there are opportunities that are set aside for economically disadvantaged women-owned small businesses. And those industries, some of those industry opportunities may overlap, whereas some of them might be specific to economically disadvantaged women-owned small businesses or specific to women-owned small businesses. But one thing to keep in mind is that if you qualify and are certified as an economically disadvantaged small business, then you automatically also qualify for women-owned small business opportunities. But it wouldn't go the other way around. So if you're a women-owned small business certified, you wouldn't automatically be economically disadvantaged women-owned small business certified. So let's talk about some of the things that are remaining the same in the program. So there's actually been a lot of changes in the women-owned small business program lately, starting July 15th, and I'm going to go into a lot of details over that. But there have been a lot of changes, and basically the main change is that the women-owned small business certification is no longer a self-certification. Starting October 15th, the self-certification option is essentially going away. And what is replacing it is a free formal certification option, or the opportunity, as it has been previously, to be certified through one of SBA's 4 third-party certifiers. So let's first talk about what is remaining the same. Okay, so these are some of the eligibility requirements for the women-owned small business program, and essentially these are remaining the same. So while like I said, these are some of the areas that are remaining the same. So let me go over these a little bit here. So women-owned small businesses still have to be 51% owned by a woman or women that are the qualifying party. The woman still needs to hold the highest officer position. It's important for the business to have the proper NAICS codes. So when I was talking about NAICS codes a little earlier, and I'll go into even more detail later, there are certain industry codes that are specific to the Women-Owned Small Business Set-Aside program. So there are only certain industries that will be set aside in that program. And those basically are those industries where women-owned small businesses are either underrepresented or severely underrepresented. The woman has to have the managerial experience as shown on her resume. The woman or women comprising the 51% ownership must manage daily operations and must have the ability, as set forth in the operating agreement and the other business documents, to make long-term decisions for the business as well. And there is no minimum amount of time that the woman must have been owned majority by a woman or women. So there isn't a look back period as there might be in other certification programs. Now, when we're talking about the economic disadvantage women-owned small business program, in addition to those sections that I had previously sort of detailed in the previous slide, in addition to that, economic disadvantage qualifications mean that the individual or individuals that comprise that 51% are also economically disadvantaged. So what does economic disadvantage mean? So each individual must have a personal net worth that does not exceed $750,000. So that's your assets minus your liabilities. A 3-year average income cannot exceed $350,000. And the fair market value of all your assets cannot exceed $6 million. Okay, so we talked about, I was talking a little earlier about the set-aside contracts. So within the WOSB program, there are 364 different NAICS codes, different subset industry codes that are set aside, that can be set aside for competition only among women-owned small businesses at the federal level. So again, so this is a federal certification, right? So we're talking about federal contracting dollars. For the economic disadvantaged women-owned small business program, there are those 364 NAICS codes, because again, if you're economically disadvantaged, you're automatically, woman-owned small business. So the economically disadvantaged women-owned small business program has the set-aside option for 364 separate NAICS codes, plus an additional 80 NAICS codes. And again, these are areas, these are industries where women-owned businesses have traditionally been underrepresented or substantially underrepresented. Now, in order for a contracting officer to set aside an opportunity in the women-owned small business program, they must have a reasonable expectation that a minimum of 2 women-owned small businesses will submit an offer on that contract opportunity, and that the contract opportunity can be awarded at a fair and reasonable price. So in order for a contract opportunity to be set aside at the federal level in one of these women-owned small business programs, the eligible NAICS code needs to be applicable. So it needs to be a contract opportunity within one of those eligible NAICS codes. There must be an expectation that the contract will be awarded at a fair and reasonable price, that basically that the woman-owned small business, for short, we call it WOSB. So the WOSB has a competitive pricing structure. The contract value for sole source opportunities, if the contracting officer would like to sole source a contract, which they may do so under the Women-Owned Small Business Program, the total contract value cannot exceed $6.5 million for manufacturing contracts or $4 million for all other contracts. And there is a sole source authority in the Women-Owned Small Business Program. So if a contracting officer has a reasonable expectation or understanding that there's only one woman-owned small business certified company or economically disadvantaged woman-owned small business certified company that can perform that work, then the contracting officer can actually sole source the contract to a woman-owned small business, which sole sourcing essentially is a direct award, an award that's not competed in the within the federal government competition system. So there is also a sole source authority within the Women-Owned Small Business Program. So these are the things that are basically staying the same. So these are aspects of the Women-Owned Small Business Program that were existing prior to July 15th and will exist and have existed after July 15th. But like I said, there are a lot of changes, in fact, that are coming or have already arrived to the Women-Owned Small Business Program. So I've got a couple slides to talk about the changes as well. So starting back in July 15th, the platform to apply to the Women-Owned Small Business Program, the free application platform was opened. I'll show you the landing page for that platform in just a second. But that platform opened starting July 15th. So starting July 15th, companies that had either had their self-certification or that were interested in applying for the Women-Owned Small Business Program could do so through SBA's formal free certification process. Now, as you can see on the screen here, beta.certify.sba.gov is where you can go to apply for SBA's formal certification process. You can also go to sba.gov/WOSB Ready, Woman-Owned Small Business Ready, to learn about all the changes that are coming and have arrived to the Woman-Owned Small Business Program. It's a very, very helpful page, sba.gov/WOSB Ready. You can link into the application through WOSB Ready. You can learn about the different documents you will need through that WOSB Ready page. It's a very, very helpful page if you're currently certified and you want to better understand what the timeline is in terms of, bidding on a project and being certified and having submitted your application. There's a lot of helpful information on that page as well. You can also link to all of SBA's third-party certifiers on that page if you choose to go through the third-party certification instead of the formal free certification option. So this is beta.certify.sba.gov. Now, this page is incredibly helpful. So once you get to the landing page, there's a section on the landing page called Knowledge Base. So you can click on the Knowledge Base and it brings you to this page here. And this page is very helpful because just like sba.gov/WOSB Ready, there's a lot of helpful resources here, including, most importantly, because we get a lot of questions about this, is what are the documents that I need to collect in order to apply for the Woman-Owned Small Business Program? Well, this page, the knowledge base that's at the landing page for the application, beta.certify.sba.gov, is where you apply to the program. The knowledge base has a lot of great information about the application process and the documents that you will need to collect before you start the application process. But you go to beta.certify.gov, you establish your account at beta.certify.sba.gov, and that's where you access SBA's free formal certification. Now, many of you who are already certified, self-certified, you're familiar with SBA's website called certify.sba.gov. So that is, I guess you could call it the predecessor to beta.certify.sba.gov. And if you have any of your documentation that's uploaded in your account at certify.sba.gov, you will actually have until October 15th, so coming up pretty quickly here, very quickly in fact, you'll have access to that profile until October 15th. You can pull all of your documents off of that profile so that you can then go and apply through beta.certify.sba.gov. Unfortunately, if you've already self-certified through certify.sba.gov, your documents won't be transferred over into beta. So you would have to actually go in and pull your documents and re-upload them into the beta website. So as I've been mentioning already, it's two different platforms. So starting July 15th, firms were able to apply to SBA's Women-Owned Small Business Program. Starting October 15th, the Certify system will shut down. So we're kind of in a transitionary phase between July 15th and October 15th. Beta.certify.sba.gov has the same look and feel as certify.sba.gov. However, to establish your account, you have to go through a slightly different process. You'll have to reconnect your account to beta.certify.sba.gov if you've never ever even certified yourself in the Women-Owned Small Business Program, then you know you don't need to worry about certified.sba.gov because you don't have any documents in there anyway. So all you need to focus on is hopping onto beta.certified.sba.gov to get your application started. So this slide talks just a little bit about the rule that came down May 11th, 2020. There was the final rule. You know, the federal government goes through their rulemaking processes for all of these certification programs. So that's when the rule came out about the new certification program through beta.certified.sba.gov. Some of the information about this new application is that it is free through beta.certified.sba.gov. You may also choose, if you would like, to go through a third party to get your certification. Even if you do go through a third party, it is important to note that you still have to establish your account at beta.certified.sba.gov so you can upload the certification documents that the third party provides you. There is a cost if you want to go through a third party, but you know, some companies choose to do that because they feel that it can be a little bit more of a streamlined process, and they have a little bit more one-on-one with somebody, you know, to help them through that process. So some people do choose to go through a third party and pay. Part of what the rule that came down is SBA is now accepting for its woman-owned small business certification. It's also accepting the 8A certification, as well as those businesses that are CVE certified, so Certified Veterans Enterprises, CVE certified. That was not the case prior to this new rule going into effect. So now if you're 8A certified or you're CVE certified, you still have to go through beta.certified.sba.gov to establish your profile, but you have a much more streamlined process when you go into the system. Okay. Oops. All right, so just to reiterate here, the self-certification continues until October 15th. So you can still technically be self-certified, for instance, for bidding on a contract. Up until October 15th, your self-certification is valid. After October 15th, program applicants, you know, their woman-owned small business self-certification is no longer valid. Some of the facets of the new certification platform is that once SBA receives a complete application, it promises to provide a decision within 90 days of receiving a complete application through beta.certified.sba.gov. You will receive a formal letter of approval or decline, which is nice because with the self-certification option, there was no formal letter. So you were not able to go to, you know, the contracting officer or to go to a prime company that perhaps you're subcontracting with and provide them with a formal letter saying, look, I'm officially a woman-owned small business. With this new program, you will have a letter that you will be able to go and provide to them, the prime contractor who, you know, perhaps is questioning your status as a subcontractor in order to help them meet their subcontracting goals. You know, they may ask you, well, are you a woman-owned small business? And you say yes, and then they'll ask you, well, where's your letter indicating that you're a woman-owned small business? SBA will now be issuing formal letters because it's a formal application process now. Declines, if you have been declined for the program, you can reapply after 90 days as long as you've corrected the issues. There is no formal appeal process for a decline. You just have to wait those 90 days and reapply. This is a list of the third-party certifiers that are have been participating in SBA's third-party certification program. It's the El Paso Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. There's the National Women's Owners Corporation. There's the U.S. Women's Chamber of Commerce, and there's the Women's Business Enterprise National Council. But like I said, even if you do get certified by a third party, or if you have an 8A certification, or if you have a CVE certification, you still would need to go and establish your account at beta.certify.sba.gov and upload your documents through that system as well. You just won't need to upload nearly as many documents if you have those other certifications. But you don't need those certifications in order to apply to the WOSB program, or the ED-WOSB program, Economically Disadvantaged Women-Owned Small Business. So this is just a little bit of just a visual between now. So this is a little bit outdated here. So starting July 15th, you can go in, download your woman-owned small business documents from your that you may have. You can begin uploading them and begin applying to the woman-owned small business certification. Starting October 15th, SBA will begin administering decisions on those companies that started applying July 15th. You can still apply even after October 15th. You can apply. You can just apply moving forward. But if you applied prior to October 15th and you're wondering, what's the status of my application, SBA won't start providing those decisions until after October 15th. And like I was saying a little bit earlier, SBA is now accepting the CVE certification from the Department of Veterans Affairs. SBA is also accepting the 8A certification as well. It's just a much more streamlined process with a lot less paperwork that you have to upload into the system. One of the questions that we've received a lot from businesses, and this is something to note as well, when I was talking earlier about the economic disadvantage certification, there's those economic requirements. One of those requirements is a net worth of no more than $750,000, so your assets minus your liabilities, right? Well, SBA is excluding some assets from that net worth calculation. It excludes any equity that you have in your primary business, so the business that you're applying as a woman-owned small business. It excludes any equity you have in that business. It also excludes any equity you have in a primary residence, so the residence you live in, any equity you have in that residence will be excluded from your net worth calculation. And any money that you have in a qualified IRA account will also be excluded from that calculation. So in many, many cases, if you're above that $750,000, once those items are excluded, you know, in many cases, you do fall within that $750,000 net worth. In order to stay up to date on changes, you can go to sba.gov/WOSB ready. You can also contact your local SBA district office. So you can contact, I'm going to have my contact information at the end of this training. You can contact me. You can contact my colleague, Joanne Schaefers. She and I both work in the federal certification division. So we help small businesses that are interested in getting certified as a woman-owned small business, or are interested in getting certified as an 8A business or a hub zone company, not to be confused with hub, which is a state certification, but there's hub zones as well, historically underutilized business zone certification that you can get at the federal level. We help small businesses who have questions about that certification, woman-owned small business, 8A, as well as a service-disabled veteran-owned certification, the one that's not through the Department of Veteran Affairs. So we can help you get, you know, any one of those certifications. And, you know, I didn't mention this before because we're focusing on the Women-Owned Small Business Program, But it's important to know, if you didn't know this already, that the federal government has an overall goal of 23% of its federal contracting dollars must go through small businesses. So as I had mentioned earlier, the federal government has a goal of 5% of that 23% must go through women-owned small businesses. But there's also an overall 23% goal. So some of that, 3% of that, goes to hub zone businesses, 3% of that goes to service disabled businesses, and 5%, another 5% of that goes to small disadvantaged businesses, which includes 8A certified businesses. So the federal government is setting aside contract opportunities, not just for women-owned small businesses, but for all types of businesses, all types of small businesses. So, so even if you go just to our website, sba.gov, there's a federal contracting section there, and you can learn about all these different certifications. But again, like I said, you can go to sba.gov/WOSB Ready to learn about the Women-Owned Small Business Certification, or you can call me, you can call Joanne as well. SBA, on that page, that WOSB Ready page, SBA also has a FAQ, a really good FAQ page, and then they also have kind of a breakdown of your certification options based on, you know, if you've already had a third-party certification, for example, then what do you need to do? If you've had an 8A certification but you want to get WOSB certified, what do you need to do? So it's a really good certification table. It kind of just breaks down all of the requirements. If you have questions specifically on the WOSB program, you can always reach out to me or Joanne, or you can reach out through the WOSB@SBA.gov page email address. That doesn't go to me or Joanne, that goes to our headquarters. So it goes to someone else. So we wouldn't see if you have, you know, ask any questions through WOSB@SBA.gov. But if you do have any questions, eligibility questions or anything, you can either reach out to me, Joanne, or you can just reach out through the general email box. For technical questions, then you would go to the help desk. Now, you can go to help@certified.sba.gov, or there's a link at the beta.certified.sba.gov page if you're having technical questions through the beta.certified.sba.gov page if you're applying to the WOSB program. Okay, so let's just talk a little bit about some of the documents required. Okay, so until just a couple of days from now, if you are currently self-certified and you want to pull your documents off the page, you go to certified.sba.gov to pull your documents off the page so that you can apply to the beta.certified.sba.gov page. But if you're not currently self-certified, then you don't have to worry about certified.sba.gov. So qualifying as a WOSB or ED-WOSB. So these are sort of the different, some of the different, I'm going to go into more detail about the different supporting documents you need. But for self-certification, you simply need to be registered in SAM, System for Awards Management, and you need to provide all of the documents that are on the checklist at certified.sba.gov. But again, because this certification is ending so soon, I would just focus on the third-party certification, or just the regular formal certification, or if you're 8A certified, the 8A certification. But something that you see in common for all of these certifications is that you must first be registered in System for Awards Management. So before applying to the any of the women-owned small business programs at the federal level, you must first have your SAM, your System for Awards Management account. And that will take a little bit of time, because basically what the SAM account is it's a business profile. It's where all of the federal government contractors house their business profiles. And in your business profile, you would have to upload business documents, your articles of organization or incorporation, your organizing documents, your bylaws, your operating agreement. You will also have to upload your bank account information at System 4 Awards Management, because that's how the federal government pays you. The federal government pays you through System 4 Awards Management, through SAM. So once you get a contract and you need to get paid, the federal government will pay you through SAM. So first and foremost, before you do any of these certifications, you must always be registered in SAM. Now I'm just going to pass over the self-certification, just because at this point, truly, there's just a couple more days that you can be self-certified. But with the third-party documents, so if you go through one of SBA's third-party certifiers and you pay to get certified through one of them, and you want to complete your certification process, then you need to establish your account at beta.certify.sba.gov. You need to fill out the WOSB or EdWOSB certification questionnaire within the system. It's similar to SBA Form 2413 or 2414. For those of you who have your self-certification, it's similar to that form. And then you upload your third-party certification, because your third-party certifier will provide you with third-party certification. So you have to fill out a questionnaire in beta.certify.sba.gov, and you upload your third-party certification in beta.certify.sba.gov. And that will then enable you to be woman-owned small business certified through the third-party certifier. Important to keep in mind that SBA is not accepting USDOT DBE certifications or any state certifications for the woman-owned small business certification. They were thinking about doing that. There was some discussion for a while, and rumors, so to speak, that they were going to also accept the DBE certification or a state certification, but they did decide against that. So that's just something important to kind of keep in mind there. Now with the 8A certification, if you're 8A certified, but you wish to be woman-owned small business certified, then you establish your account through beta.certify.sba.gov, and then you fill out the questionnaire again. You fill out that questionnaire, you upload your 8A approval letter or your annual review letter, whatever is most current, you would upload that. And then you would then be able to be certified as a woman-owned small business. So it's pretty simple. It's a much more streamlined process if you have one of these other certifications. Now let's talk a little bit about the eligibility requirements for joint ventures. So there are a lot of questions. If you're woman-owned small business certified, then, can I joint venture? Or if I'm economically disadvantaged woman-owned small business certified, can I joint venture? So a WOSB or an EdWOSB may submit an offer as a joint venture with another small business if they meet certain requirements. So each concern separately must be small under the NAICS code that's attached to that project. So that's the way that because again, these certifications and these contract opportunities are set aside for small businesses, right? In this case, for a woman-owned small business. So, so you do in fact have to, each company, so you as the woman-owned small business have to be small for that specific NAICS code that's attached to that contract opportunity, and your partner has to be small as well. The woman-owned small business must be the managing partner to the joint venture, so they must be the one that's managing and controlling the joint venture in order to bid on a WOSB or EdWOSB set-aside opportunity. The WOSB or EdWOSB must be the one that is providing the project manager to the joint venture and to that contract, that specific contract. They have to have the project management. The WOSB or EdWOSB must own at least 51% of the joint venture. The joint venture partners must receive profits commensurate with the work performed. The WOSB or EdWOSB must perform a minimum of 40% of the value of that contract. With these small business contracts, these, if it's an 8A contract or a hub zone contract or a WOSB or EdWOSB contract, with these small business contracts that are set aside in those programs and only, those certified companies can bid on and receive as prime contractors, there's always going to be a requirement that the prime contractor, that certified party is performing a certain minimum percentage of the contract. Because of course, we don't want to see a situation where, the economically disadvantaged woman-owned small business is getting the contract, but then they're subcontracting it all out to a large business, for instance, right? Well, what kind of business development, how is that going to help the woman-owned small business in building their own past performance, right? If they're subcontracting the whole thing out. So there is a minimum percentage of the value of the contract that must be performed by a woman-owned small business if it's a woman-owned small business set-aside contract, or an 8A if it's an 8A set-aside contract. So with the joint venture, the woman-owned small business must perform for a minimum of 40% of what that joint venture performs. So if the joint venture is performing 100% of the contract, the value of the contract, then the woman-owned small business or economically disadvantaged woman-owned small business must perform at a minimum of 40% of the dollar value of that contract. There must be a special bank account that's in the joint venture's name. The joint venture must itemize all of its major equipment and facilities that each party is going to contribute to the JV. They must specify the responsibility of the parties. They must obligate all parties to ensure the performance of the contract. The records of the joint venture must be retained by the EdWOSB or WOSB managing venturer. And quarterly financial statements and profit and end of year final profit and loss statements must actually be submitted to SBA. It's important to keep in mind that SBA will not review and approve WOSB or EdWOSB joint ventures. SBA only reviews 8A joint ventures, but your joint venture, if you're using it to bid on a woman-owned small business set-aside contract, it has to be in accordance with the regulations, and these are some of those regulations. And this is my contact information here. So I'm the one at the top, Aregnaz Mooradian. I'm the lead business opportunity specialist. My contact number is 704-344-6396. That's my contact there. There's also my email address, and then my colleague, Miss Joanne Schaefer's, is listed there as well. And that is our address at the top there. Our office is currently closed. So we currently are closed. So we don't have the ability to have walk-ins at this time, but hopefully eventually, once we can get through this whole, coronavirus issue, we'll be able to, open up again and we can have walk-ins, but you can always reach me by phone. That concludes the presentation. Are there any questions?
Ari?
Yes.
This is Dorothy Vick, and one question we received goes as follows. I already have a SAM account. Should I wait until October 15th before applying?
That's good that you already have a SAM account. You do not have to wait until October 15th. What October 15th, what the significance of that date is that for those companies that were self-certified, that's when their self-certification ends. That's when it's no longer valid, their self-certification. You can apply now. You can go ahead and apply for the formal certification right now if you would like at beta.certify.sba.gov.
Thank you. Another question. I'm Hub WBE. Could you please clarify what I do first to become EDWOSB and 8A?
Yes, okay. So the hub WBE, so though I know that the hub certification, that's a state certification. And then WBE is as well. I believe that's also a state certification. Now, one thing I can say is a lot of the documents that you use to get those certifications, you will also need for the 8A certification, as well as for the EDWOSB or OSB certification. In order to start the application process for EDWOSB or WOSB, you go to beta.certified.sba.gov. That's where you actually apply for the certification. So that's really where you want to go to start the application process. You'll have to establish an account, and you'll have to connect your SAM account. Once you establish your account, it'll take you through steps to connect your SAM account to that account. Like, they'll actually talk to each other, and then it'll pull some information from the SAM account into that account. But then you need to begin the actual application process, which is a series of questions that you have to answer, and then documents that you have to upload. If you want to know what documents to upload, you can go to beta.certified.sba.gov onto the landing page. There's something called knowledge base. You could click on knowledge base, and there's a checklist. There's actually literally a checklist that you can, it's like a PDF that you can open to see what documents you need. You can also go to sba.gov/WOSB ready. And you can, there's questions, it'll link you to questions on whether or not you are eligible for the Women-Owned Small Business Program. Now, some of the things that I had mentioned earlier, like one of my first slides, and you'll get a copy of this slide as well at the Whova app, you can access this, a copy of this PowerPoint presentation. But you do have to meet certain requirements, like 51% ownership, managing the daily operations as the woman, certain economic disadvantage requirements if you want EDWOSB. So there are some requirements you have to meet, and those are listed at WOSB Ready as well, sba.gov WOSB Ready. To apply to the 8A program, it's not beta.certified.sba.gov. It's certified.sba.gov. If you want to apply to the 8A program, you go to certified.sba.gov, and you can do the same thing. You start your account. You have to connect your SAM account to certified.sba.gov. You'll have a series of questions you have to answer, documents you have to upload. Same thing with beta.certified for WOSB. For 8A, if you go to certified.sba.gov, there's a knowledge base there too that has a checklist for all the documents that you need to apply to the program. Or you can call me or Joanne, and we can walk you through the process too.
Thank you. Another question, and I hope I get this one correct. I am recently WBENC-WBE certified in my second business. Would they have provided my WOSB certification during that process as well, or would it have been a combined certification?
Okay, so I'm not very familiar with that certification because it's not a federal level certification. So the WOSB certification is getting certified at the federal level to bid on federal contracts. So I can tell you that you would not have automatically been WOSB certified if you received that other certification, because that certification has its own certification process, and then the WOSB has its own certification process. So if you're interested in bidding on federal contract opportunities, in those certain industries that are designated for WOSB at the federal level, then you would want to get WOSB certified, because that will enable you, with that certification, you will be enabled to bid on federal set-aside opportunities. And unfortunately, they're not mutually, there's not reciprocity. Like if you get this certification, it doesn't automatically get you another certification.
Let's see. And this particular question is in reference to the first question. And I think the first question was, I'm Hub WBE. Here's their first question. I'm Hub WBE. Could you please clarify? And I think I've already read that, but let me go on. If reference to my first question, and that was about ED, WOSB, and 8A, does this mean I need to first get a SAM account before I go to the betacertify.sba.gov website?
Yes, yes. You need to, with the SAM account, so your SAM account, System for Awards Management account, is your like general business account for working as a contractor with the federal government. So first things first, if you want to sell your goods and services as a prime contractor to the federal government, you must have an account, an active account at System for Awards Management, SAM. Once you have that account active, if you would like, you can start to apply to these different certifications, but you do first have to have that SAM account, and it has to be active. So like it has to be completed in a sense, and approved by, you know, the Defense Logistics Agency. They're the ones, and GSA, they're the ones that like manage the account. So it would have to be like completed and active. And once it's activated, you can go into beta.certify.sba.gov, because in order to start your application at beta.certify.sba.gov, you have to connect your SAM account with your beta account. So your SAM account has to be active.
Okay. Another question. I have a SAM account, but I cannot find the M PIN.
Ooh.
How do you obtain that?
Okay, it's there. Now, what you can do is if you go to certify.sba.gov, www.certify.sba.gov, and you go into the knowledge base, there's a bunch of resources, and they're alphabetical, they're alphabetized. One of the resources at certify.sba.gov is your MPIN, how to find your MPIN in your SAM account. So you can either, if you want to email me, you can email me and I'll send you that link to that page in the certify.sba.gov account, so you can figure out how to find your MPIN in your SAM account. Or if you go to Certify, you may be able to find it yourself there. But that would be what I suggest, because off the top of my head, I don't remember exactly where the MPIN is in SAM, but I do know that we have a link in our Certify page that helps you find your MPIN.
Well, I'm looking, and that seems to be all the questions that we have at this time. So I would like to thank you.
Dorothy, sorry, this is Skyne. There's two other questions that came through the Hoover app for you, Ari.
Okay.
The first question is, I just self-certified my business last month of September 2020. Do I have to recertify now to receive a formal letter?
So you just self-certified WOSB or Ed WOSB on the Certify. Yes, yeah. So you do have to go through the formal certification process at beta.certify.sba.gov in order to get your letter. Unfortunately, nothing from the self-certification account, like nothing from certify.sba.gov for the WOSB self-certification will automatically transfer over. You need to actually go, because they're two different platforms. So the formal certification platform is at beta.certify.sba.gov. So you have to actually apply through that platform to get your formal certification. And just a reminder, if you're self-certified, that self-certification will expire October 15th. So once October 15th comes, if you only have the self-certification, it will no longer be valid, like to bid on federal contracts. Or even to call yourself, well, no, yeah, to bid on federal contracts, it will no longer be valid. So you would want to go through the beta.certify.sba.gov to get your formal letter.
Okay. And last question. How do we find out what the 364 NAICS codes that qualify for set-asides are?
That's a good question. You just go to www.sba.gov WOSB Ready. There was a link that I had earlier in one of the previous slides. It's the sba.gov WOSB Ready link. You can link into the that page itself. You can link into, it links you to another page where you can see the list of NAICS codes. So that WOSB Ready page is very, very helpful. It basically has like all the information that I just talked about today is on that WOSB Ready page, sba.gov/WOSB Ready. But yeah, that's where you can find the link of the NAICS codes that would apply for the set-aside program.
Awesome. Thank you. Those are all the questions I have. Dorothy?
I do have another question for you, and that is, what's the SAM address?
Okay. So right now, the federal government is going through a lot of changes right now, and it's combining a lot of its legacy pages into one page. So you're going to actually want to go to beta.sam.gov. I know you're hearing a lot of this beta word that we're throwing around as the federal government here, but if you go to beta.sam.gov, that's where you can go. That's what the sam.gov account is. It used to just be sam.gov, but now it's beta.sam.gov. So that's where you go to start your business profile as a federal contractor or prospective federal contractor. And you know what, the nice thing too, just as a side note, like I was talking about, the federal government is trying to combine a bunch of its legacy, like different pages into one page. Well, the federal government also had another page called federalbusinessopportunities.gov, fbo.gov. That's where you go to actually find like the different contract opportunities that are posted with the federal government. Well, now that page was migrated to beta.sam.gov as well. So when you go to beta.sam.gov, there's going to be, you can actually also search for contract opportunities on that landing page. So you can establish your sam.gov account. You can search for contract opportunities. There's eventually, they're going to finish up the process of migrating another page called Federal Procurement Data System, which is like,
Unfortunately, it looks like we're having a technical difficulty in that we've lost communication with Ari. And I'm not sure she's aware of that, but are there any other questions that we might have? Because right now I'm showing none. And if that is the case, I want to thank everyone for participating on this particular workshop. We hope we've answered the questions that you may have. I want to remind you to go to the HOVA app to rate this workshop. There is a survey for you to complete.